Welcome to podcast 20 in the series of Who Let the Master Out. The last several episodes, we've talked about chakras and how our lives mirror their structure. I thought I would share an experience I had several years ago that helped me comprehend how chakras and colors reflect the world of spirit for us. I was in a men's choral group, and we had just finished rehearsal. I was walking with a friend just to grab some food before he had to go to his evening job. And we happened to be chatting about different cultures and how they attributed different colors to their deities and gods. I shared with him that I, at the time, mainly interacted with a white, masculine, powerful energy and a compassionate, healing, feminine, green energy. We reached his workplace, and he continued to chat about it. But as he was preparing to start his work, and he was like a night auditor, he asked what I thought would be next for me in working with energies. It was right then I was hit with a huge surge of energy that zapped me and kind of pulsed outward from me. And it felt like the roof blew off the building. And in my mind's eye, I saw like large colored orbs headed toward me. My friend, he was standing about 15 feet away from me with his back turned to me. And he stopped and he turned around and asked what had just happened because he had felt a wave of energy pass through him. So I told him briefly what happened, and he recommended I immediately return home and meditate, and I agreed. So I said my goodbyes, and I hurried home, which was just a few blocks away. As soon as I entered my apartment, I went and sat in the dark on the floor of my living room. And I'll admit that I was a little nervous because I was definitely heading into new territory. I closed my eyes, and I refocused back to what had happened just moments ago, and was again flooded with a pulse of energy. And in that place in our head where spirit communicates with us, that third eye or the mind's eye area, I saw like my ceiling just disappear. And I saw like the universe out there, the night sky. And these giant colored orbs were still there, and they were still moving closer toward me. And I realized that they were the colors of the chakras. Suddenly, I knew in my head that these orbs represented different aspects or personalities of the mother and father of all things. I don't mean that our Creator has a multiple personality disorder, but that it is more like these orbs represented different aspects of its being. Like, how we can have a hero inside of us when we need it to appear, or we can have a compassionate healer side of us when we need it, etc. So, as we talked about in previous episodes, our chakras control different areas of our lives, and so these orbs were showing me that they control different areas of the Creator's existence. It sounds kind of complex, but it does make sense. Like our minds and our bodies do so many things at the same time, but they are all controlled by different areas of our brain. So these orbs, they moved down and took possession over the top of me and on my sides, forming like an arch or like a rainbow. And then each of them began to vibrate until they suddenly like shattered. Sort of looked like one of those candy commercials where they all burst into a million tiny little replicas of themselves. And then all these little tiny colored mini orbs began to mix and mesh within the arch. And then out of nowhere, they burst into a bright white light. When the light cleared, I was standing on the edge of the moon. This was all in my mind's eye. I wasn't literally standing on the moon, in physical form anyway, but it felt real. I looked down and saw Earth, and then I turned and looked out into space. I felt like there was something transparent just at my arm's reach. So I stepped out into this invisible field, and everything became quiet within me. It felt like time had stopped. I felt peace. I looked up, and I saw galaxies, little lumps of galaxies spanning upward and beyond. And each of these was one of the colors of the chakra as well. So the closest one was red, and then farther away was orange, and then yellow, and then farther green, blue, indigo, and violet, just going farther and farther away. And because the red was close to me, I was drawn to that one. And so I began to float toward it. But I was pulled back, and I heard a voice within me say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa there, mister. If you go that way, you won't come back." And it seemed like that was the path back home. And the whispers inside me told me that if I had gone that way, my physical body would have died. So, at least when the time comes, I now know the gate to take. And now so do you. What's interesting is the following week at work, I had a meeting with one of my employees who was also a dear friend of mine, and she was gifted with seeing auras. And when she came and sat in my cubicle, she looked at me and asked what was going on, because she said my aura was huge, bright, and looked like a rainbow. She was surprised that everyone couldn't see it. It was so bright. So I told her the story of the orbs and what had happened to me. And when I came to the part about sensing a transparent field, her eyes got really big, and she slowly rolled her chair backwards, almost entirely out of my cubicle. I asked her, what was the matter? And she said my aura had gone transparent right before I told her about it. And as I continued to relay my experiences, she just shook her head and said, every time I spoke about a specific color, my entire aura switched to that color. It's just crazy. We're such complex spiritual beings. When we're asleep in fear, we don't realize how our energy and intentions create events and energies all around us. But when we do wake up and realize our power, look out. It changes the world that we see. Next episode, I'm going to share another vision I had when I was stressing over trying to save the world. It's pretty hilarious. But until then, break the cycle. Be free. Be big. Because we're giants in a world of giants who have been taught that we're weak and small. It's time to rise. It's time to let your master out.